Ijaz Mirza, Dave Bassett, and Claire Becker by video. Ijaz has been working for many years, and he studied economics. He is currently based in the United Arab Emirates, and he will say a little bit more about himself. I know that he has a passion for audience management, and particularly for the technology side of research. So he brings with him that to this morning's presentation is that passion. Bev Bassett, she's a lead consultant for Africa. Her professional background includes leadership positions in marketing and research for Nielsen, Kantar, TNS, Beiersdorf, and Sara Lee. She is passionate about the benefits of modern digital market insights and solution-oriented growth of Southern Africa. She brings full-brain strategic thinking to the table, coupled with deep business knowledge of African markets gained from leading major client accounts across the region. So if you join me in welcoming Dave.
Thank you, Sukiso. Good morning, everyone. Are we awake? Yes. Lovely. And thanks to the lovely party yesterday we had. Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot of people are still in the same zone. Yeah, so lovely to be here. First time at PAMRO for Borderless Access, and we're impressed. Borderless Access is always there to share the learning and learning with the industry when it comes to insight industry. And that in that pursuit, we always go places. At any given month, we must be speaking at least in a couple of conferences across the globe. We'll be there in SMR as well in September, and we are here. We were there in Samra. Sharing our knowledge is one part of our passion and what we do. We love to do. And Sukiso, thanks a lot for detailed introduction. So United Arab Emirates, those who didn't understand, is actually Dubai, but what we always refer. So that's where I'm based, and my responsibility include dealing and developing clients in Middle East and Africa. And that's the reason why it brings me every time. And along with me, Bev is presenting. She's based out of Johannesburg, and Claire from Unilever was wanting to come here and present with us, but she had a few other engagements. She could not make it, but there is some learning and note that she's shared on video, so we'll be sharing that as well in the presentation. So let's see. Let's have some energy going in the room, and please feel free to ask any question at the end of the session. Would love to respond any question, clarifications, and and get the session going for today. So, as the presentation title you can see is about decoding consumers' decision, and that's where we said we love to talk about insights, and the element that we wanted to take was to see how we have moved from the last 10 years, and we all remember that we had a 10 years challenge session, trending last year. We all remember about that, right? So what we did is we tried to see how 10 years challenge in terms of the technology, in terms of the insight has been going in our industry, and we saw that last year a lot of people posted, a lot of celebrities posted where they were there 10 years how they look, how they are right now. So from the technology context, from the technology context in Insight, it's very imperative to see how technology has improved the insight industry in a nutshell. And we talk about 10 years, and here we are sharing 10 years gap, how technology has moved from big computing to really variables which are more powerful. Yesterday, Oresti, I think, talked about today's mobile phone have more powerful computing than Apollo, right? And that's true. And then the variables that we have today are much more powerful than lots of computers we used to have about 5 decades ago. In the last 10 years itself, the technology has moved from computing on devices as laptops to computing on our handheld devices. And so technology is disrupting our world, and hence it is also disrupting how consumers are connected and how consumers are connected with brands. We see what happens in 60 seconds on internet and how much consumers are ready to talk about is increasing tremendously. We see that Facebook in 3 years gap started with 2.5 million posts to about 3.3 million posts in 2 years time. We talk about WhatsApp. WhatsApp used to have about 12 million messages in 60 seconds. Now it has increased to about 45 million messages in 60 seconds. Tremendous growth of how consumers are connected, how consumers are connecting with brands and with among themselves, which means that there is a whole lot of communication that's going on, there's a lot of interaction going on from consumers in that much time, which means that consumers are used to be as vocal before, but now they have got enough technology platforms to really talk about themselves, talk about the brand, talk about their interactions with the brand in as many platforms, and that's exciting for even the insight industry. It is up to us to leverage that insight, that technology platform. Consumers have moved digital platforms, and even in South Africa, it's not very different. We see that some of the local examples we can see is consumers are rapidly moving to digital platform from changing behavior, like accessing on different space and time. If you see, number of online shoppers grew by 2.5 times from last 10 years, 2009 to 2019 in South Africa. Average daily time spent on social media is about 2.5 hours every day. That much more talks are going on, that much more interactions are going on from the consumers. So we see these are some of the examples of our learning from different studies. This is an example of this is taken from one of the study that we ran across 10 markets, and the data is compared for South Africa market from the global market, and we see that there's a huge difference. There's significant difference in terms of how consumers are consuming TV series in South Africa, which is significantly higher than the global benchmark that we had our study on. Reflects that there is a lot of local content being created, generated in the market in South Africa. Things like Uzalo has got 9 million plus viewers on Tuesday. Generations the legacy got about 8+ million viewers as well on prime time. So a lot of local content are being created and a lot of local content is generated, consumed in South Africa. Now, South Africa is a reflection of where Africa is leading, right? That's how we see it most of the time. So we see that this is leading in the right direction. When we talk about insight industry, when we talk about opportunity and advantage in the modern era, then we see that South Africa, from the insight perspective, is slightly lagging behind in terms of use of digital. And this data is from SOMAR, and they are the body who look after, globally they look after what kind of studies are being carried out in which part of the world and so on and so forth. We see that South Africa is actually behind even the other African counterparts. And there is a huge scope for us from technology, from insight industry to move towards the technology domain, using the methodology which are much more efficient, much more fast. And so there is a huge gap, and that is a good news in a way, because we have the capability now in place, and we have the technology now which is efficient enough, and we have consumers also coming on to digital platforms that we have seen already, and presenting us with an opportunity to create more and more efficient insight. Because times are changing, and times are changing in a way that we have to adopt to that pace of which goes into which goes into generation of the insight as well. So this is how it could appear in 10 years' time, when we are talking about digitally connected consumer, getting from insight to the marketing actions, and there is a platform which is ready to be launched. So going to the next level, we have a case study which we want to share with you, which we did for Unilever as a test pilot study, and I would like to welcome Bev to take you through the rest of the presentation.
Hi everyone. Hello. So again, PAMRO, thank you very much for inviting us to present this presentation today. And what we did in the build-up to putting this presentation together is we ran a test pilot with Unilever, so that what we could do was bring an almost live use case study to this audience to show you the benefits of digital and how it could in fact transform the space that we operate in the research space. So we did work with Unilever, we pulled this quick test pilot together, and I'm going to take you through some of the learnings. But just to start with and to set the scene, if we look at some of the advantages of using online digital panels and samples, and to begin with, proprietary panels give researchers quicker access to their sample, because what we do is we build intelligent profiling of the panelist. So not only their response patterns, but also more intelligent profiling, such as their financial behavior, or mobile behavior, or automotive behavior. And then mobile, and yes, we said automotive. And what we then do is we augment that with machine learning, which will then help us to better target and quickly access specific target markets, so that what happens is you can run feasibilities of whether you can in fact reach your market before you go into the market, right? So in this way, speeding up the process of doing research far quicker than we've been doing in traditional ways to date. And then when we look at digital, compared to traditional, typically what you would see with traditional methodology is you would launch your study in, say, the back end of the week and run your program on that part of the week and the weekend, and you would be collecting data over different periods of time. When it comes to digital collection, what you're doing is you're constantly collecting data, and that also affords you the ability to adapt the work that you're doing as you go. So for example, are you reaching a particular target market, and as quickly as you thought of, do you need to boost your survey in certain areas or not? So it gives you much greater flexibility with speed. And then what we also see is that when respondents engage in their own time online and on their mobile or handheld devices, throughout the day or evening, in the comfort of their own space, it really helps us to get closer to hear and to see their responses in near real time. So the collection is also near real time. And at times, what we may do in digital is provide research clients with live dashboards to show the build of their collection, which provides a lot of comfort around what we're seeing, how are respondents answering questions, what can we do about it. And the objective is to drive speed of decision making ultimately, and to generate further insights and to spend more time generating insights and less time collecting data. So what we also did as a comparison is we ran a test around incidents to see whether digital, which some people are still skeptical about, can reach the same levels of incidence as traditional research. And we found that the two were very well matched across, for example, snack categories. But when we took this further and we said, what data are we actually collecting across traditional when we compared to digital, what we were seeing was that the traditional research across the snack category mostly covered in-home use, whereas digital, because people were responding on the go as they were living their lives, we collected a great range of both in and out of home usage. So it really starts to transform the way we actually do research and the quality of the data that we collect. So, on to the actual case study that we did with Claire. So, what did we do? We created a branded case study. So PAMRO asked us specifically to bring a branded example to you as the audience. And Unilever kindly agreed to do this work. And really what we're trying to do is to illustrate to you as a room of mostly researchers and for your clients that we can help to drive the maturity of research that we do across Africa. And what I mean about maturity is the evolution to digital, away from traditional as it is appropriate. And we can do this a whole lot quicker. As you saw from the work that Ijaz presented, as a continent we're running well behind the global norms, despite the fact that we are a digital and mobile first continent. And that should surprise us. I don't know, does anyone follow that amazing little girl who is saving the world? Yeah? The name? Greta. Is anyone following her? It's she kind of goes, panic, you know, the house is on fire, I want you to panic. So, just the slide that Ijaz put up, we are running so behind the rest of the world for this continent that is a mobile first digital continent. Why? Is the question, the controversial question I would like to leave with the audience. So really, this work is about helping and to demonstrate to you how we can help to move this market into greater maturity in the digital space. So what we did was we ran a 5-day diary across 300 people, and we collected information over lunch and dinner. So I'm handing over to Claire. Can we go back and replay that?
key ways we will be able to do this is to help get the answers to our business questions.
I'm going to go back and we're going to replay that if you don't mind. So if we could get the volume on higher, are we happy to go? Go back again?
Go back.
There we go.
Hi there, I'm Claire Baker. Here at Unilever, we are constantly challenging ourselves on how do we innovate faster, how do we react to trends and consumers' changing needs quicker than we did before. I feel that one of the key ways we will be able to do this is to help get the answers to our business questions in a quicker way than before. Before using traditional research, it might take a matter of months to really get the answer, is our innovation right? Does our mix work? We don't have the benefits of that time any longer. We need results in weeks, sometimes even days, in order to really stay ahead and win in the marketplace. And one way that is possible now is using research through digital tools.
So that was Claire's introduction. So I'm going to show you a couple of the slides, the semi-non-branded version of it, of some of the results that we generated in this very short space of time with Claire. So what we were seeing was that the work showed that the engagement is not limited to online recipe portals, because this was about food, and that social media in particular, as the varied channels across social media, played a very strong engagement role with cooking enthusiasts. And then we also asked consumers how their cooking habits had changed, because Ijaz's theme was about looking at the evolution of our marketplace over 10 years. And what we saw was that the use of cooking was moving towards more convenience, but there was still a preference by respondents to cook almost from scratch, but in a more convenient way. So what respondents needed was raw food that was ready to cook. So ready chopped vegetables, if you can think about your shopping at, for example, Woolworths for the South Africans in the room. And then we also saw that ready ingredients and meal kits as a real convenience, particularly for working women, as it happens in the study, was something that was also preferred. And through this process, and particularly because this is a digital process and a speedy one, information was shared in rich imagery form, and that meant that rich in the moment media was brought to the client, and that helped to bring the cooking experience to life for the rest of Unilever's business. Because these guys can't always go out into the field. We also saw that own food that was being prepared was really being seen to be a healthy choice and a tasty choice, whereas meal kits were seen to be convenient. And the result, or the insight from this kind of data would be, well, how do you want to position your ready-to-make meal or your from-scratch meal, or could you make meal kits healthier as an option for working women in particular, who are the highest users of that particular category. We also saw that over lunch and dinner, there were very different meal patterns being consumed. And not only that, we were also seeing that behaviour on the weekend versus the weekday was also quite different. And you will know from your own experience, you tend to have a little more time on the weekend. So what would happen is you would tend to make meals from scratch, because ultimately people, we saw in the research, like to make meals for their families. And lastly, and more importantly, the data that was shared through this research was done in near real time, rather than relying on what consumers cooked yesterday, because the typical question around the food diary would be exactly that. Tell us what you cooked yesterday. And we all know how short are our memories. Do we remember? Do we truly remember? So the idea is to get much closer to the truth, and to augment that truth with the visual storytelling that consumers can then share, either in imagery form or in video form. So I'm going to hand over to Claire to close off the session.
I'm sure by now you would have been just as impressed by this research using digital methods as I was. Not only did it take a significantly shorter amount of time, what I was really impressed with was the closeness to real time of the food preparation. Before using traditional methods, we would have said, what did you prepare yesterday? And we know that's difficult to always remember, and potentially good insights could have been excluded. Preparing dinner and responding 3 hours later on the survey was really amazing, as well as all the images to help bring it to life. And I think this really does showcase the impact of the change from traditional to digital research, and us at Unilever need the quicker response time in order to stay ahead in.
So that concludes our presentation. So PAMRO, again, well, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present this work. What I'd like to do is open up to questions, and Ijaz and I would like to take your questions if you have any. We can move straight on.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Bev and Ijaz and Claire, for your very challenging presentation. I did not finish eating my breakfast, and after your presentation, I was feeling a little hungry because of some of the content of your presentation about food. Let us now